Hi, Carol.
Hi, Catherine.
So I know that you've personally invested, you know about angel investing, but I think a lot of people are very fuzzy about what that is, what type of company might be appropriate for angel investing, how to find them and how to pitch them. Can we dive into that today?
Sure. So I would say the best way to think about an angel investor is somebody who is in between a total amateur and a total pro. They're probably an individual that has some experience, has capital. They're an accredited investor, and they're, depending on where you live here in the US, there are certain rules about what it means to be an accredited investor in terms of your income and or your net worth. And they fill a void before you go seek venture capital. So they're early on, they're typically in kind of your what's called a seed round, the first outside capital that you're taking in outside of your own capital that you put in from a bootstrap perspective. But sometimes they can be other people. Sometimes they can be friends and family who maybe don't know as much. There are some people who are more professional types of angels that really have made a great living off of doing this, particularly if you're in Silicon Valley. But they really fill the need in that early stage after you have a business plan in place, after you've gotten some of the business up and running, but before you're big enough to go out to get venture capital. And that means something different. If you're a consumer company, you have to get much further along before you get venture capital versus a tech company where you just maybe have a working prototype of your technology. So it does vary again by industry, but they're filling that particular role.
So I've heard that angel investors can be very helpful to bring wisdom about a specific type of business and industry knowledge and connections. Is that what you found?
Maybe. It depends on the angel. So people do angel investing for various reasons. It happens to be very risky. You're usually, as I said, the first outside capital in. Businesses don't often just go in a straight line. There's always sort of an ugly trajectory. And so professional money tends sometimes to squeeze out the angels with the terms that they put in. So it's a very difficult thing to do. So some people are angels that just are doing it kind of out of their goodness of their heart. It doesn't mean they're going to make the dumbest investment decisions, but maybe they're doing it to support a friend or family, or because they believe in capitalism and they've gotten lucky, and so they're a little bit more forgiving. And then there are ones that take it very seriously and take it as a real investment and have a much more rigorous process. So on the first side, if you're going to your friends, your family, or what we like to call the DDLs, the doctors, dentists, and lawyers, they may not have such great advice. And I've seen people be put on advisory boards and given their opinions on things, and frankly, they just don't add a lot of value. They think they're adding value, they're not adding value. Sometimes they actually detract. I've seen angels who've put in money and then put a lot of demands on the company that they want, free stuff and free stuff for their friends, and they want to come in and show tours and whatnot. So you do have to be careful with that. If you get a professional angel, which means that you have your stuff together a little bit better than if you're going with the doctors, dentists, and lawyers probably, then yes, you can have people who are bringing mentorship to the table. I've done several angel investments. I've sat on the boards of private companies as well as a public company. And so if you get angels like that who have connections, who understand corporate governance, who can just keep you on track, that can be really, really helpful to your company, but you have to pick the right type of angel. And for some of you, it won't matter. Some of you, it's just about getting the money, and that's good enough. But if you have the opportunity to be picky, be picky.
But you also have a couple cooks stirring the pot now, right? They're not just ponying up their money and disappearing. They're going to want to have some input and have some reporting and some communication back and forth, no?
Theoretically, it's an interesting thing. Early stage companies are not very good about being organized financially. So if you have the right kind of angels, particularly ones that have a lot of financial discipline. They will force you to get your financial reporting together, which can be really helpful because a lot of times early stage companies are watching their cash burn and they don't even realize that they're months away from going out of business because they're not really doing the financials. They're doing everything in their head. There are other angels that just give the money and go, how are things are going? Okay, they're going great. Fantastic. So it really depends on who you get in the mix, how much they've put in, how much they're invested in a bunch of other things. They're going to want to hear from you theoretically. If they're smart, they're going to ask you for some reporting requirements, but it just really depends on who you bring to the table.
Okay, so let's say my company is at a point where I've demonstrated some viability in the marketplace. I'm looking for some investment. How do I pitch an angel investor?
The best thing you can do is get an introduction. That always gives people some comfort. Investors are always looking to mitigate their risk. One way they mitigate their risk is by getting an okay from someone else that you're, a competent person and not a serial killer and all of those kinds of things.
Don't have a gambling problem.
A trustworthy steward of their capital. And there are also, official angel groups all across the nation that have very formal application processes. But even with those, if you know somebody who can give somebody in the group a nudge, you always go to the top of the pile. And it doesn't have to be somebody like an investment banker or a broker. A lot of times that sometimes will turn people off actually. So if you just have a personal relationship, and LinkedIn's a good place to kind of stalk out those relationships and see who knows who, but just that introduction is a good thing to do. But you have to have the kind of business where people can get their capital out. So that means that at some point you're either giving them, if you structure it as debt, a return on their investment, and then you're paying back that debt, or you're going to sell the company eventually, or if you're a big enough opportunity, you're going to go public. But the angel investor doesn't want you to sit on that capital forever. 5 to 7 years from now, they're going to expect a return, again, unless it happens to be your father or grandfather or somebody who's just doing it to be nice. They have to have some way to get their capital back. So that's important for you to think about when you're going and you're asking for the capital, is how do they get it back at the end of the day? It's not a charity. It is an investment.
Perfect. Anything else you want to add?
Just, it's a deal with the devil. If you take somebody else's money, that is a big responsibility. So never take money from somebody who cannot afford for you to lose it all. Make sure that your relationship is stable enough that if you lose it all, that they're going to still want to talk to you. And really be thinking about the quality of that relationship, because it's the type of thing, money is a funny thing. It changes relationships between people. It should not be taken lightly. So if it's something you're going to do, you better have a really good use for that capital, and you better go do it. Otherwise that's going to follow you for the rest of your life.
And could make for very awkward holiday meals.
Absolutely. Pass the potatoes and pay me back my 25 grand. That is not the Thanksgiving dinner I want to be at.
All right. Thank you so much, Carol.